Hey, what is going on, guys, and welcome back. We are starting part 4, and in this video, the entire video, we're just going to cover section 1 of part 4, where we're going to walk through how to install Visual Studio Code Editor, the Python interpreter, and do one exercise as well as install some debugging tools in our VS Code editor. Now, this is again one of those lessons that before we start, I will emphasize if it's important or not, and this exercise is important for you to be able to continue doing the rest of the course because starting this point, every exercise we do will no longer be submitted through the Programming 26 website, right? So if you remember in previous sections, every exercise has a submission box where we get to type in our solution, hit run. We can also test our code against the tests that the instructors have already set up. We can reset, and we can also view the model solution. But starting in part 4, that's no longer the case. Every exercise that we do and submit and test against will be submitted through the VS Code editor, right? So you're gonna hear me say VS Code. That just means Visual Studio Code. So I'm just abbreviating the Visual and Studio to VS Code. That's a very conventional way of saying Visual Studio Code is just saying VS Code. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through how to install it, as well as how to install some other additional tools that we're going to need to start to be able to do all the exercises and course material that we're going to be covering from here on out. So again, as you can see, there's no longer going to be a submission box for every exercise that you read on the website. And if you don't believe me, we can go back to the homepage for part 4. If you click on this section where we're going to actually be doing a lot more exercises, as you can see here, again, here's an exercise that we're going to have to do. There's no submission box. If we scroll down again, no more submission boxes. So that's why this section here in part 4 is very important that you do this, right? There's no other way for you to be able to submit exercises as far as I'm aware, but I could look further into that. And so if you have issues installing VS Code or you don't want to use VS Code, perhaps it could be another alternative way for you to continue to do the exercises and follow along with these videos and follow along with the course material on the website. But VS Code is what is the preferred code editor that the course wants you to install. So I'm going to walk you through how to do that. And if you have any questions, if you run through any issues, leave them in the comments below, and I will try to address them as best as I can or find you resources that address your issues much better than I can. All right, so section 1 in part 4, again, installing Visual Studio Code Editor, Python interpreter, and the built-in debugging tool. The learning objectives for this section are that you will be equipped to use the Visual Studio Code Editor to complete exercises on this course. You will be familiar with the interactive Python interpreter and will be able to use it to run code. Thus far, all the exercises on this course have been completed directly on the course pages in embedded editor windows. So that's what I was showing you here, where we've come across this so many times. This little box, this little submission box here, it's an embedded code editor onto the website, and it allows us to type in our code directly onto the website, run our code, test it, and have some other functionality here as well. Programming in the browser is very suitable for the very first steps in programming. But now it is time to start using a separate editor, especially made for programming. And this is a key point here because the exercises we're going to be doing moving forward are going to be a lot larger. They might even require to use multiple files. You might have to write, full functioning little programs that take in inputs and do a lot with those inputs. So you're going to need an environment that's going to be able to allow you to do all that stuff, to be able to create multiple files, to be able to link them properly, and have them compiled into one executing program that does what you want it to do. So that's why using a code editor is going to be very crucial moving forward. And especially after you complete this program, when you want to go and do your own stuff, you complete the course and you want to go start testing your skills beyond what these exercises are, right? Put all these lessons together and start making and writing your own Python programs and scripts So having a code editor is going to empower you to be able to do that a lot easier. There are dozens of different editors that are suited to programming. Very true. On this course, we will use the Visual Studio Code Editor, which has been gaining traction in recent years. Now you can see that this is a little bit outdated, right? This course has been going on for many, many years. Visual Studio Code has been around for so long, I can't even remember. I've been using VS Code since I was in high school, and that was almost 10 years ago. And I use it all throughout college. So yeah, it's this. You can tell that some of the material here is a little bit old, but Visual Studio Code has been around for a while now. So it's probably one of the most popular code editors for across the board for any language that you're going to be programming in. I've used it to program in Java, JavaScript, TypeScript, C++, and as well as the basics, HTML, PHP. I've used it to write Python code so many times. So it's definitely one of the most popular code editors on the market right now, and it's free. So, and then there's also other options that you have. If you prefer programming in Java, you might find one of Oracle's code editors to be a good option, right? Eclipse from Oracle is one of the standard in the industry code editors or IDEs that Java developers use. You can also use IntelliJ, which is another option if you are a Java programmer. There is Cursor now, which has AI embedded into it. If you've been in the space and have been working with AI, you might have seen Cursor. So there's a whole heap of them that you can use when you're writing programs. Some of them are very dedicated towards one programming language, and other languages are, other code editors and IDEs are a little bit more open-handed, right? You can write any program, any language. You can use any language in them, and they'll be able to help you to compile them if they are compile-based languages and whatnot. So there are a whole heap of code editors out there that you can use. Please install the Visual Studio Code Editor on your own computer. You may also need to install Python and the Visual Studio Code plugin for Python. You will also need the TMC plugin, which will take care of running the tests that go with the exercises. In the TMC plugin, select MOOC as the organization and Python Programming 2026 as the course. Now here's a link to installing all of these. Read the instructions on working on and submitting the exercises, and then complete the task below. So I'm just going to click this. It's going to open up a new tab on your browser, and it's going to be the guide on getting started with the TMC, or Test My Code, and the development environment. So I'm on Windows, so the instructions that I'm going to read are going to be for Windows. But if you're on Linux, you can click Linux. If you're on Mac OS, you can click Mac OS. And as we encounter any other steps that I will also mention, what to do if you are on Linux or Mac OS. But for the most part, the instructions shouldn't differ that much. So I'm going to click Windows. First thing that we need to do is install Visual Studio Code. So when I click on that link, it just scrolls me down, right? I'm not leaving the website. I'm not leaving this tab. Just click on it. It's going to scroll you down to the section on the web page that talks about installing Visual Studio Code. Okay, so please install Visual Studio Code from the link below. VS Code is not the same program as Microsoft Visual Studio. If I click on this link, it's going to take me here to download Visual Studio Code. Now, if you click this link from the course material, it's going to take you to the home page of Visual Studio Code, right? So if you look at the URL here, it says code.visualstudio.com. And this one, it says code.visualstudio.com/download. Now, what's the difference? The website will most likely auto-detect what OS that you're running. So for me, it detects that I'm on Windows. So when I click this big download for Windows button here, on the top right, it's going to start downloading Visual Studio Code. It's detected that I'm on an x64 chip, and this is the current version, 1.118 something. I can't see it off off screen. I'm gonna pause it because I already have VS Code installed and I don't need to install this again. But that's what's going to happen. It's gonna take you to this link and it's gonna automatically start installing VS Code on your machine. I'm on Windows, so it automatically detected and started installing VS Code for Windows. But let's say that you're not on Windows, that you're on Mac OS. If you land on this link, if you land on the Home Visual Studio Code link, right here below the Download for Windows button, you should see this link that says Other Platforms. If you click it, it's going to take you to the download link, which is what we get when we go from here. When we click this, right, codevisualstudio.com/download, that's where it takes us. So that's how you can get there from the Visual Studio Code homepage. Click Other Platforms below the download button. It's going to take you here. Download Visual Studio Code for other OSs. So again, if you're on Windows, you can still go ahead and do your Windows installations, right? You can do the automatic installation wizard, right? You can download it for Windows here, Windows 10 and 11. And if you want to be more specific, if you're not on x64, if you're on ARM64, you can select one of those. You can select if you want to do a .zip, if you want to install it through the CLI. If you want to do a system installer, user installer, you have those options here. If you're on Linux, you can do a Debian or .rpm installation. You can also select whatever chipset that you want to select down here, or if you want to do a CLI-based installation. And if you're on Mac OS 12.0 plus, you can also select what chipset that you want. If you're on Intel, Apple Silicon, if you're on a Universal, if you want to do a CLI, you can also just click this big button and it will do a similar installation process as what I have over here for Windows. So that's it. That's all you need to worry about from this website. Once the installation completes, just click on it and it will run through the installation wizard. Now, when you're going through that installation wizard for VS Code, you're going to reach a section that says select additional tasks. And what you need to do is to ensure that the add to path checkbox is checked. Now, what is that going to allow you to do? On Windows specifically, if you press Windows plus the R button on your keyboard, it's going to bring up this little run box on the bottom left of your screen. I'm going to type in CMD for the command prompt window. And in here, what it's going to allow me to do is, let's say, for example, I navigate to a specific directory, right? A specific folder. Here, I'm just working on a little program. If I write code plus that with the direct, basically, I'm telling Windows to open VS Code with this directory that I'm currently in, right? The current working directory. When I write that and I press enter, then VS Code is going to open up on my machine. Now I have a bunch of extensions running on VS Code, so it's going to take a little second. But this is how VS Code is going to look. Now it's not going to come with all these files that you see here. This is for my personal project that I'm working on off screen. But this is how VS Code is going to look. Now I've just dropped a whole bunch of frames here for a second. Okay, so I had to let the frames regain here because VS Code does use up a lot of background processors, a lot of CPU power. So I just went and opened another workspace that okay, so I went and opened another directory that's a little less heavy. That's still going to allow me to have some memory to play around with in the background and to keep OBS happy as I'm recording this video. But as you can see, this is how VS Code would look like on your machine. Now, this is the Solutions GitHub repository workspace. So if you go to the link in the description where I upload solutions to different exercises, that's all stored on this little workspace here. And all the code that I have saved I did it through VS Code. So this is how VS Code is going to look for you. Now, just to show you how much memory VS Code has taken up for me on my machine, because it's not the fanciest machine on the planet at all whatsoever. It's taken up a heap of memory, right? Almost 1,000 megabytes of memory, followed by Google Chrome at second place. But this is also because I have quite a bit of extensions installed on VS Code. And I'm going to show you how to install the TMC extension that you're going to need to be able to do the exercises moving forward. But I have GitLens running, I have GitHub running, GitHub Actions, Neon for databases that I work with. GitHub Copilot comes with VS Code, but I think it also, when you get the extension installed, it gives you this little tab here. I have so many extensions here running, so some of them do end up bloating VS Code's memory usage. So if you have a beefy computer, then you shouldn't really worry about this too much. But on my end, I have to be a little bit conservative with what extensions that I run, just to keep VS Code from using up too much memory. So this is VS Code once it's running. So make sure that you did this step, especially if you're on Windows. Now you can also manually do it if you forgot to do it. If you paused this video and then came back and after running the installation, you can also manually do it by adding the VS Code bin folder to your system environment and variables. Now I can make a separate video on that to walk you through it. If you forgot to do this, let me know in the comments below. But if you're still doing it through the installer, right, and you can also rerun the installer, so you can make sure that you check this box when you come and view it under the select additional tasks step. So that's a very, I think it's it's not important, it's not really necessary, but it just makes life a little bit easier for you. When you start working in your terminal a little bit more, if you start using command prompt a lot more, right, being able to just launch a directory straight from the command prompt window is really cool. And also, if I open this folder, you can also launch that directory straight from the URL bar on the File Explorer. So when I write code dot here as well, it's also going to launch VS Code, as you can see it pop up on screen right now. So that's what that allows you to do. You can launch whatever directory you want into VS Code through the File Explorer or through your command prompt window or through PowerShell if you're a PowerShell user. So that's really, really, really cool. And I think it should be those creature comforts, things that you should want on your setup. Okay, next we're going to install the Test My Code extension for VS Code. Now, it requires us to first open Visual Studio Code, go to this extensions view, look for Test My Code, and then install it. So I'm going to go back to Visual Studio Code as I have it open here. Now, when you look on the left panel here on the VS Code window, right here, there's this tab called extensions. It has these 4 boxes, and one of them is kind of tilted or rotated over 45 degrees. Click on that, and here it's going to show all the extensions that I have installed. Some of them are disabled, again, just to save some memory for myself. In the search bar here, I'm just going to search for Test My Code. And I'm going to hit enter, and you're going to see this. Test My Code. It should have this icon here, TMC, with this little box. And you can see it's by the University of Helsinki, which is also the same folks who are running the Python programming course that we've been taking for the last however many videos. So I'm going to click on that. It's going to open up a tab here, and this is it. You can look at the credits, the contributions, data information, data collection policy that they have, etc., etc. We don't really care about any of this information. I'm just going to come up here to the installation button, this little blue button at the top. I'm going to hit install. I'm going to click Trust Publisher and install, and I'm going to let that install. You can see it running. You might have seen the little scroll wheel here, not scroll wheel, but the little loading indicator here on the top. That's what's going to tell you that TMC has been installing. Okay, and then you should see back on the left side panel here that we have this little TMC button, right? This little panel. When I click on TMC, it's going to start running. Just give it a second. Right on the bottom right here, it's going to say just downloading TMC languages. It's going to take a little second, so I'm going to come back to this once it's done installing. But just keep an eye on this on your machine if you have faster internet than I do. that once it completes, and we're going to proceed from there. So we'll be right back. Okay, so the download installation and installation of the TMC Langs that was bottom right of the screen here finished, and so now you should see again, if you are still under the Test My Code tab, you should see some links here, some buttons here on the left on this panel here, and you should have also seen a Welcome to TMC screen that showed what the latest version is. I think it's like 3.5 point something, but you don't have to worry about that much. Just click on the login button here and use the TMC login email that you have and password, right? So if you remember when we were submitting exercises, or if you want to check the model solutions, we go to tmc.mooc.fi, and it should prompt me to log in at the top. So the email and password you use to log in here is the same one that you're going to use to log in here. So I'm going to do that off screen, and then we'll continue from there. Okay, so I'm already logged in. Now we're going to continue setting this up in a second, but I just want us to continue reading the installation guide here for a second before we get too far ahead of ourselves. So next what we're going to need to do is install the Python environment. So it says here, for courses using Python, you will need Python and Python extension for VS Code to run your source code. Please install Python following the instructions below. So you got to click on this link. It's going to take you to www.python.org/downloads. I open it on another tab, and you can download the latest version of Python here, 3.14.4. And then when you click that, you can do the Python installation manager. It's just a little bit easier, right? Let this run. When it's done, just click on it and let it follow the installations to install the latest version of Python. Or you can just download the standalone Python installer here, 3.14.4. And it's going to start installing. If you're on Windows, if you're on Windows or if you're on Chrome, through the download history tabs here, let this run. Again, I don't need to do this because I already have Python installed, but that's what you do. You click on that, wait for it to run, and once it's done, follow the installation instructions through the installation wizard. Right, so double click the installation file to start the installation. Make sure you choose add Python 3. Whatever to path. Right, so this is the image. Install launcher for all users, which is a recommended step, and then add Python 3.8 to path, which is again similar to the installation for VS Code. It's going to allow you to have a little bit of things to do to be able to run and execute Python through the CMD. Okay, now once we have that completed, click the install now button, let that run, and then we're going to need to go back to VS Code to install the Python extension. So I'm going to go back to VS Code. Again, if you, this is one of those cool shortcuts on your keyboard. If you press Alt and Tab on your keyboard, it's going to let you see all the different windows that you have up. And if you hold down Alt and just keep clicking Tab, it's going to let you cycle through them. Or you can hold down Alt and use the arrow keys to go back and forth. So I'm going to go to VS Code, going to go to the Extensions tab, and I'm going to look for Python. Now, I think I have it installed, but I have it disabled, if I'm not mistaken. But let's see. Okay, so when you look for Python, and it should show you a whole heap of Python extensions here. We don't need to worry about any of these. Just look and find Python language support. And if you click on it, it should show up like this. Make sure it's by Microsoft. The current version, as I'm recording this video, has 216 million downloads. So that's the one you should want. Now, I already have it installed on my machine. I have it currently disabled, but you should see the blue installation button that we've seen before when we were installing the TMC extension. So click on that, let it install, and then we'll move on from there. Okay, I'm back on the installation guide for one more thing, just to see, not one more thing, but just to make sure that we've completed all the instructions that we needed for ourselves for Python. So that's it. Now, this course isn't for Java, so we don't need to worry about installing the Java environment, right? Installing the Java OpenJDK, any extension packs related to Java, installing Maven, or any of that nature. We need to scroll down here to the Start Programming section to finalize the last bit of things that we need to do. So it says here, when you have downloaded Visual Studio Code, Java, Python, and Test My Code extension, next step is to make a MOOC.fi account. We already have that. Again, right? You should have made one when you first started doing the course, to let you log into the programming website to be able to track your progress correctly. And you should also have the TMC link account that lets you view your solutions after you submitted them, and that also lets you view model solutions that the instructors have provided for us to review. So this is what it's in reference to. The account is made so we can track your points on the course. After that, you can start programming. So again, make sure you've already created this account. Which again, you should have already created this account to be able to follow along as far as we have made it in the course so far. And then we need to log into the programming environment. So we have to go back to VS Code, click on the TMC extension, and then log in. So I've already done that, right? If I go over here, click on the TMC extension, let this load for a second. So every single time I click it, it has to keep doing this download. So I'm going to come back to it once it finishes downloading the stuff that it needs. All right, so you should have been logged in once this, as I did earlier on the video, but if you haven't, there should be a login button somewhere around here. Click on it. In fact, I'll just do it again on screen here so you can see. I'm just gonna log in. All right, this is what I mean. If you weren't logged in, you'll see here a login button at the top left, settings button, right? This is just for TMC settings. You don't need to really worry about this right now, or ever, I think. You can also open where the exercises folder will be saved, and the extension logs, which I think are what we're seeing down here. Right. So if I was to close this, click it again, this is what you're seeing down here, but you don't need to worry about that either. But just go over here to the login tab, type in your username, your email and password, and you should be good to go. This is the same email and password you use on the programming course website and on the TMC website when you're checking your solutions and the model solutions. Okay, I'm logged in. Now, I've already done some courses by the University of Helsinki in the past. I've done the Java, both the introductory and advanced programming course in Java. So that's why I'm seeing what I'm seeing here right now. You can also see it listed here under my courses. But if you go back to the guide here, you probably won't see this if this is the first course that you're doing on the first MOOC course that you're doing. If you've done any of the other courses that you probably would have already gone through this setup already in the past. But if you haven't and this is the first course, this is what you're going to be seeing. You're gonna have the login button here when you're not logged in, so it's gonna prompt you to log in, enter your credentials, and then it's gonna prompt you to select your organization. So here it says when you log in, you will see a list of courses selected. Right at the start, it's empty. If you're not at this view, press My Courses, and then you can add courses to the list by clicking Add New Course button. By clicking Add New Course, the extension will show all possible organizations that offer courses. Search and select organization that is mentioned in your course material. Right? In our instance, we need the Python course. So when I go back to MOOC, I'm going to click here, Add New Course. It's going to look for these are all other organizations that use the TMC plugin for their courses. We're going to click on MOOC. And then here you can see all the courses, right? So you can see the object-oriented programming is one of the University of Helsinki's oldest massive open online courses, right, since 2013. So they even have the 2013 version over here. They have some data analysis courses. This one's from 2023 to 2024 and also 24 to 25. They have the updated Java programming courses here. But we're going to scroll down and we're going to look for Python Programming 2026. So I'm going to click on that. And now you can see it down here, right? It says you can see the course listed under the My Courses tab, both here, right? When I click on it, it's going to pop up over here, but you can see it listed here, right? I've already done the Java Programming 1, Java Programming 2, and now we have Python Programming 2026. And so far, we've done only 25% of the exercises. So that's what you should see. If you're not seeing this, let me know in the comments below. But you would probably be able to figure out what you did wrong just by rereading the installation guide. Okay, so and that's it. So that's everything that's set up. Here it says completing your first programming exercise. Let's go through an example how you can complete the Hello Visual Studio Code exercise on the Python. Now again, this installation guide is old from 2020, and it still have here some text that's not written in English. Even if you have completed the exercise on some other course, read the instructions to the end. It will have important information on the programming environment. Okay, once you've logged in and selected the course, click the course in My Courses view. You'll land on the course details page. Click on the download button for part 4. This will start a download process for part 4 exercises. So let's go back to Visual Studio Code. We'll click on the course here. So we've done 31 out of 31 exercises in part 1. We don't need to download any of them. We've done all 22 exercises in part 2. And we've done all 34 exercises in part 3. So we don't need to download any of those. But in part 4, we do need to download some of them. So for now, I'm just going to come here, right? When I click the show exercises, not this one, in part 4, I'm going to click the show exercises button under part 4, and I'm going to click Hello Visual Studio Code, right? Status not completed, and it's also new. There's also no deadline. I'm going to hit down. I'm not going to download all of them, just 'cause it's going to take a while. I'm going to do that off screen. I'm just going to download this Hello Visual Studio Code exercise, which is this exercise here. Hello Visual Studio Code. So we're going to be able to do this and submit it. So I'm going to hit download. It's finished downloading. When I go back and click Python Programming 2026, come back here, show exercises. I'm going to click, check that box again, and I'm going to hit open. Okay, so I downloaded all the exercises. Again, you can do that off screen as I have done. So it should say status here open, but I'm just going to click up here, open workspace. And now it's going to open MOOC Programming 2026 with TMC. They have a README file here that you can read through it if you'd like. Just giving it a second here to load. Okay, when I click open all here, all right, give me 1 second to figure this out. All right, there we go. So just click on the Explorer at the top here. Sometimes I even forget where I am. But just click on the Explorer button here once you, right, so what you can do, just to keep it simple, right, just check the first exercise, hit open. But you can do it that way. You can click everything and hit open, and then click on the Explore tab up here, and it will show all the exercises that we have to do for this section, or I mean for this chapter. Or if you don't want to open everything all at once, you can just tick only one and hit open, and then come back to the Explore tab up here, and it should list all the exercises that we have to complete. So I'm just gonna minimize everything. If you click on this top right collapse button here, it's just gonna collapse all the folders and expand the top folder. And let's just read the instructions to see. So again, we don't have to worry about installing any additional extensions, right? So normally, if you hadn't installed the Python extension, it would have prompted you here on the bottom right of VS Code to install the Python extension, but we already had it installed prior to getting to this point, so we should be okay to continue. Now, when we open the source folder and open the Hello Visual Studio Code file, right? You can also already see it. It has the little Python indicator. If you don't see this, you might have to install the icon pack on VS Code. Again, just go to the extensions tab and you can do it through there, but I'm not going to show you in this video. Now here's where we can write our solution. Now if you remember, this looks pretty familiar to the website here. If we go to an exercise, for example, right? Normally you would have seen here, it would have that comment. Right? You'll see this comment at the top here saying this is where you write your solution. On the website, it looks green, but on the Visual Studio Code, it's grayed out. Okay, since we're got everything back under control, so I'm just gonna do is collapse VSCode here to the right so we can continue to see the course while also doing the exercise here. So if you want to collapse this left side panel like I've just done, if you press Control B on your keyboard, you can open it and close it like that, so we just have a little bit more room. I wish there was a way to collapse this sidebar here on the website, but it's whatever. So this is the exercise that we need to do here. It's called Hello Visual Studio Code, and we're told to please write a program which asks the user which editor they are using. The program should keep on asking until the user types in Visual Studio Code. Have a look at the example of expected behavior below. So prompt the user what editor they're on. They type in Emacs, response not good. Vim, response not good. Word, response awful. Atom, not good. Visual Studio Code, an excellent choice. If the user types in Word or Notepad, the program counters with awful. Other unacceptable editor choices receive the reply not good. The program should be case insensitive in its reactions. That is, the same user input in lowercase, uppercase, or mixed case should trigger the same reaction. The simplest way to achieve this is converting all characters to the same case. The Python string method lower converts a string to lowercase entirely. An example of its use is as follows. So we have a variable here called myString. We store this string of Visual Studio Code to it, and then we say Visual Studio Code equals myString.lower. Print this was the string I was looking for. This exercise doesn't ask you to write any functions, so you should not place any code within an if name block. The same applies to any upcoming exercises that don't explicitly ask for functions. So what that means is we could probably just use a while true loop. Then we're going to say editor is equal to input editor. In fact, I don't know if we can cast it immediately from input, so but we'll leave that off for now. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Now here we're gonna say if editor is equal to, or I should say does not equal to, and I'm gonna write here Visual Studio Code was it the str or string? In fact, actually, we could just do this. We could, over here, we'll just say solution is equal to Visual Studio Code. That way we can just do solution dot lower. Then we're going to print awful. And then what else do we need to do? Else, we want to print an excellent choice. In fact, we need to also check if editor is it just awful? So awful should be for Microsoft Word or Notepad. If editor equals Word or editor equals Notepad, then we want to print awful. Then we want to do elif editor is equal to does not equal to solution to print not good. Oh, I'm sorry. No, we don't use the double pipes in Python. We use or. I keep forgetting that. And I think that should be right. So this would mean that they've entered Visual Studio Code. So we're gonna break, and this should be the solution. So let's try to run this. If you look on the top right here, we can hit the run Python file, and it's gonna open a terminal down here. All right, so we get prompted to enter an editor name. So if I type in Notepad, responds not good, but okay, so this also needs to be case insensitive. So what we should do here, give me 1 second. So this needs to be case insensitive. So all we need to do here is just do dot lower, call that as a function like that, and then save. Let's run this again. Okay, so if we type in Notepad like that, okay, so we were actually very close. I just took a second to look at it. All we need, since we're already casting it to lower here and here, so all we need to do is just make the comparison to lowercase, right? So instead of having it like this, right, just write word as lowercase like that, and same for Notepad. Just change the first letter to a lowercase n. And if I save, hit the run button again, and down here, if I type in Notepad uppercase, it works. If I type in, lowercase, it works. If I type in with an uppercase letter, it works. Same thing with Word, and like that. Now, if I type in Vim, it says not good. If I write it uppercase as well, it says not good. If I write Visual Studio Code, an excellent choice, and then it exits. And this needs to have a exclamation point at the end there. Let's run this one more time. If we do Emacs, not good. If we write uppercase, not good. If I do Sublime, not good. If I type in Word, lowercase, it also says it says awful. Notepad uppercase, Notepad lowercase, Notepad plus plus says no good. So that's also good. So it recognizes that we can change anything else to the end of Notepad, and it will switch to not good instead of printing awful. If I write Visual Studio Code, if I write Notepad uppercase like that, still says awful. Word like that uppercase, it still says awful. And if we test it against this wonky spelling of Visual Studio Code with mixed casing, it says not good. Okay, so we need to also worry about this. Okay, like that. So let me rerun this. I've been wonky, and there we go. It says Visual Studio Code, an excellent choice, and then it exits out. We spelled choice incorrectly here. Okay, run this one more time. Type it in here. There we go. So this should be the solution to our exercise now. So if I hit the TMC button here, it's going to run tests against our code, similar to what we were doing on the browser. Going to let this finish. And there we go. All tests have passed, and I can click Send Solution to Server. So now we get credit for in passing this exercise. Now, if I go here and I hit the refresh button, now we have a 1-to-1 points, 1 out of 1 points. So that's it. That's this video. It took a while. Again, I don't have the best computer on the planet. I don't have the best internet on the planet. I try to make do as much as I can. In the future, as you've seen here, VS Code does eat up a lot of RAM, especially if you have a lot of extensions, as I do, as I am a software engineer. And I also have my own personal projects that I'm building. So I need certain extensions that allow me to do that work
a little bit faster, a little bit easier, and things of that nature. So it does get bloated a little bit. If you have a beefy computer or nice enough computer, you shouldn't have to worry about this at all. But on my end, I do have a not so decent computer, so VS Code does eat up a lot of RAM, which in turn, does make recording a little bit tricky because we're gonna have a lot of skips, a lot of frames missing. So if there were any frame issues that you encountered in this video, let me know. I'll try to go through it before I upload it. If I missed editing any of them out, or if they do pop up intermittently and I didn't notice them while I was editing the video, let me know and I'll fix that moving forward. And I'll just prepare VS Code a little bit more so that we don't encounter these issues. Also, let me know if you like this split window approach to how all exercises are going to be done in the future, because we're going to need to be able to read the exercise instructions on the browser and then do the exercises on VS Code. So I'm just going to be doing this split window approach, which is going to make it a little bit easier for us. Again, if you have any questions or if you encountered any problems while installing Visual Studio Code, installing the TMC extension, being able to log in, being able to add the course on Visual Studio Code to the TMC extension, and being able to complete the exercises through VS Code, let me know any of those questions in the comments below, and I will try to help you out as best as I can, or guide you and provide you with the resources that can address those issues that you're encountering a little bit better than I can. But this is where we are so far. So moving forward with the course, all exercises will be done through Visual Studio Code. We're going to write our solutions on Visual Studio Code. We're going to test them on Visual Studio Code, and we're going to submit them on Visual Studio Code so that you can get the points for the exercise. Now, there's still some other stuff here, which I guess I shouldn't have started saying my goodbyes yet. I guess we can just sit here and read through this very quickly. It just gives you a little bit of extra pointers about what I just literally just demonstrated here in a second as we were doing this exercise. So we finished this part. Here we have a section here on executing code. And it says in Visual Studio Code, the easiest way to execute your code is clicking on the triangle in the upper right-hand corner. This little sideways play button here. Sometimes it happens that some program is left running in the background, maybe waiting for input from the user or stuck in an infinite loop without you realizing it. You might only notice this when trying to execute the next program, which simply will not run because the previous execution is still hogging up resources. A quick fix is pressing on the keys Ctrl+C at the same time, which stops the execution of any ongoing process. The next program should now run fine. So down here, if I click the run button down here, if I press Ctrl+C, it breaks out of the program executing. So you will see something like here, editor, traceback, most recent call, and it's going to print this out, which means that now there's nothing running in the terminal, right? When you click this run button here, it's going to open the terminal, the built-in terminal in VS Code, and it's going to execute that program in that built-in terminal, as we've just seen down here. So when you come down to the terminal and hit Control-C, it's going to break out of that program. So just in case you're stuck in an infinite loop, or your program is hanging and it's not executing, or you forgot to close this out because your program didn't have an exit condition or a terminating condition, and it's just continuously running in the background while you're trying to move on to the next exercise, for example, that's how you can disable that, which is what this is talking about here, this whole block here. All right, the interactive Python interpreter. One of the most important tools for any Python programmer is the interactive Python interpreter. Starting up the interpreter may depend on your platform. In a Linux or Mac system, you can type in Python 3 in the terminal. In Windows, the command on the command line might be Python. Firing up the interpreter on Mac looks like this. So you have in Python 3, and it prints all the stuff out, and you have access to Python in your terminal. It is also possible to start the interpreter inside Visual Studio Code. First, you should execute a program by clicking on the triangle, right? This green triangle here, but in this latest version of the TMC extension down here, up here, it's this little grayed out triangle, looks like a play button. That's why you click and it says run Python file. This should open the terminal selection section on your screen, where you can now type in Python 3 or Python. So if I copy this and I paste Python down here, and there we go. I'm on Windows and this is the output that we get. Same output Python version. I'm on 3.13. This is not the latest version. If you follow this instruction, you should have installed the latest version of Python. But this is what it prints. And now here I have access to Python. So I can write in help, or it should be the help function, like that. And it gives you some pointers on what you were able to do in here. But yeah, that's it. I can do some math in here. All right, quit. I can write, 7 times 3, and it prints out 21, as you can see down here. I can do input. I can do basically most Python related things that I can do here, right? As you can see here from the example, if I could type in a string hello times 5, it's going to print hello, 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 hello 5 times, and so on and so forth. So you have some functionality in here, but we're not really going to be using this as much as we think we're going to be using it in this course. It says any Python code. Wait, hold on. You can also try a browser-based Python interpreter, such as python.org/shell. So you can go to the Python website here. I'm not going to do that, but you can do that, and you can also play around with Python on the browser through this link. The interpreter is a way of executing Python code line by line as soon as you write it. When you write a line of code and press enter, the interpreter executes the code right away and shows you the results. So that's what we've been able to do here. Type 7 times 3, press enter, it gives you the solution right there. If you want to print a string 5 times, it does that immediately after pressing enter. Any Python code that can be written in a file can also be written in the interpreter. You can even assign variables and define methods. So here they have a variable called t, which is this array. Then we'll loop through the array using a for loop, right? For number in t, print that number, and it's going to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's test this out. Just going to copy it, come here, paste, and then, as you can see, we're just assigning this array to the variable t. So I could do print t, and we can get that array printed back out. Or I can do the loop, right, for number in t. If I press shift enter, then I can print number. Maybe I need to press shift again here. So let's do that again. For number in t, shift enter, print number. Shift enter again. What's happening? Do I need to? So I still need to indent. Wow. Okay. One thing that we always forget, right? So again, for numbers, so if I click up on my keyboard or down, it'll show me what lines of code that I've already typed in. So I'm going to go press up for number in t, press enter. Then I'm going to press tab. Then I'm going to say here print number. Then press enter again, press enter one more time, and then it prints 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just like what we see here, we're going to define functions. We can assign variables, right, x and y, and then do something with those numbers. So yeah, so that's basically what you can continue playing around here. We're not going to do that for the sake of time with this video. The interpreter is best suited for making small checks. For instance, you can try out functions and methods or check if they exist at all. Here we have a string to upper, right? We get an error, has no attribute to upper. But we can do it this way, right? This is the correct function if you want to convert a string to uppercase, and that's what's going to print out that string in uppercase. So we can test this out as well, right? We're going to get that same error, no attribute to upper, right? And then if I click this, if I copy this and paste it in here, there we go. It prints text as uppercase string. If there's a method you need, and you can almost remember its name, it's sometimes faster to skip Google and use the direct function in the interpreter. It tells you which methods are available to use on a given object. So here, if I do this, string, press enter, these are all the functions and that I can perform on a string. Remember, we can format a string, we can find something in the string, we can check if the string is lowercase, we can check so many other things. We can swap cases, we can strip, we can translate, we can convert it to an uppercase, right? We can do a right-hand split, a left-hand split. and so on and so forth. So these are all the functions that are available to the string object, right? To strings in Python. So that's what this is teaching us how to do here. Python strings have a lot of methods available, as you can see above. At this point, it might be best to ignore any methods that have underscores in their names, but the rest may well prove useful, right? We haven't gone through any of these yet. These functions here with underscore, we might probably go over them in the advanced section of the course. However, if you're curious, you can go ahead and play with them or just Google them and see what their capabilities are. Some of them you can figure out by trying them out, and the rest you can search for online. Python lists don't have so many methods. So if I type in this, these are the methods that come with Python arrays, right? In other programming languages, when you use square brackets and pass data into them, they're called arrays. In Python, they're called lists. So here you can reverse a list, you can clear a list, and so on and so forth. So if I again print numbers, I think we should have numbers here. We call it T. Okay, so if I print T, right? So that's our array. If I do T.reverse, it's gonna print, whoops. And I click T and I type in T again, it's gonna print our array backwards. So now our list is now permanently reversed. And if we can do it again, we're gonna do T.reverse one more time and then print T, and now we're back to having it in ascending order. So we can also do T.clear, and if we call T again, now it's an empty list. As you can see, these methods do pretty much what you would expect based on their names. Notice how the interpreter doesn't print out anything when you run the command numbers.reverse. This is because the interpreter prints something out only if the line of code has a value. The reverse method here doesn't return any value. All it does is go through your list, reverse it, and then that's it. It doesn't print anything out automatically. It doesn't return anything else automatically. It just mutates what we have in that list. In the above example, we printed out the value of the list numbers by typing in just the name of the variable. In fact, it is rarely necessary to explicitly type in print commands in the interpreter. You can include them if you want to, however. So as you can see here, if I just type in T, right, I get that empty list again. I can also just do this one more time so you can see it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. And if I type in T, press enter, we get our list printed back out. But I can still do print T, and it does the same thing. Remember to close the interpreter when you are finished. The commands quit or exit will close it, as will the key combo Control-D on Linux or Mac, or Control-Z in Windows. Especially in Visual Studio Code, this is important, as trying to execute another Python program while the interpreter is still running results in a rather cryptic error message. So this is what will happen if we were to come up here, hit run, right? So basically, we have two conflicting things happening. We're trying to execute our program while also running the Python interpreter. So it's going to keep us in the Python interpreter until we explicitly type in quit, like that, and press enter, and then now we're out, and then if we want, we can run our program now. All right, cool. And if you're on Windows in this terminal, if you type in CLS and press enter, it's going to clear that terminal window for you. So if it gets a little bit too bloated or just messy in there and you just want to start over, you can type in CLS and it's going to clear that entire print history in your terminal window. Okay, the built-in debugger. We have already spent a fair amount of time and effort on developing debugging skills, mainly through print statement debugging. The Visual Studio Code editor has another tool at your disposal, a built-in visual debugger. To start debugging, first you have to define a breakpoint in your code. A breakpoint is a point in your program where the debugger halts execution. You can set a breakpoint by clicking on the left edge of any line in your program. The following example is a slightly faulty attempt at solving the exercise, the sum of consecutive numbers in the previous part. There is a breakpoint on line 5. So you can see if I hover through on a line here and go over to this where the line numbers are printed, you can see this little dot here. When I click that dot, it's going to set this as a breakpoint for us. After the breakpoint has been set, choose Start Debugging from the Run menu. This opens a list of options where you should select a Python file. So if I print Control-Shift-P, and then I type in Start Debugging, right? Then I click, it should probably tell me the Python debugger, then select the Python file, and then here, in our terminal, you can see the debugger is running. And it also gives you this little tab here, run and debug. So, I mean, we already have it running here in the terminal. So, but yeah, VSCode has a built-in debugger. I'm probably not gonna let this run in this video because just for it might cause some frame drops, but let's just try it, right? So our breakpoint is here on line 8, where we check if, let me close this, if the editor and the solution don't match, right? So this is if we type in Emacs or Vim or whatnot. So if I type in here, Word, it gets offer. But if I type in Emacs, there we go. It hits that breakpoint. Now it triggered. Special variables, editor, Emacs, solution, Visual Studio Code. So it tells us what our expected solution is. So these are the two variables that we're looking at, right? So the editor is the input that we plug in, and the solution is up here. So these are what we force to be the breakpoint, which contains the current. So on the left, there is now the variables view. So this is what it's showing here in this image, which contains the current values of all variables active in the code. So this is what we're seeing. All active variables in our code is editor and solution. You can proceed with the execution line by clicking on the down arrow. So up here we have step into, step out to, but if I go back here and I hit the down arrow, right, this one, step into. Right, now it's gonna, next code to be executed, it's gonna hear print not good. In the image below, the loop in the code has already been repeated a few times. So now, again, so it's almost like that Python visualizer we've used in the past. So every single time, right, press down, this is the next code to be executed, right? So it says not good. So it prints not good, and then it goes back to the top of the loop where we prompt the user to input another editor. So every single time we input another editor, if I type in Vim here, it's gonna trigger that breaking point again. Then I can press the step into, right? Editor.lower, it's gonna print not good, and it's gonna come back up here, and it's gonna prompt us again to enter a new, another input. For example, you can check the current value of the Boolean expression in the condition of the loop. I wish they would have used this exercise here just to make it easier for us to follow along in real time, but yeah. Now I can, if I click on the little dot again, it disables that breakpoint, and now my code is the same. Now I can still run the debugger. Actually, no, you can't. So we can restart if we want, but again, you just have to set that debugger and the breakpoint where you want it to, so you can be able to use that step into and step out and step out arrows. You can include several breakpoints in your program code. When execution is halted, you can start it again by clicking on the blue triangle. Execution proceeds until it reaches the next breakpoint. The built-in visual debugger is a good alternative to debugging print statements. It is up to you which you choose to employ more in the future. Each programmer has their own preferences, but it's always a good idea to try different options before settling on any single solution. Okay, and that's it. So that's all the details and material that we needed to read for this section. If you have any questions, as I mentioned before, please leave them in the comments below. I didn't expect this video to take as long as it did, but it did. Again, partly because we ran into some issues where we were dropping some frames. VS Code is kind of bloated on my machine, but it is what it is. We'll try to make do as we continue to do this course. If you have any questions, again, leave them in the comments below. Next video, we'll cover the entire section 2 in part 4, where we continue learning more about functions. And so I'll see you guys in that video.